Hey, what is up, guys? It's your boy Morning Speed here. I got my blanket on. I'm ready to make an offlane tier list. And why don't we just hop right into it, you know? No time to waste. Let's talk about some of the best heroes that go into the offlane and some of the worst heroes that get into the offlane, and let's get into it. Alright, before we get into the main part of the video, I do want to let you guys know that I'm not only posting videos here on YouTube, I also frequently post videos on the website. If you don't know what I'm talking about, almost every single day I'm posting a new video to the GameLeap website. We're going to teach you guys in depth about how to get to the next level. So if you want to become absolutely broken, click the link down below and sign up. Alright, let's start off with the D tier. I have no E tier this time, just D tier. D tier is the worst tier, right? These are the heroes that you should never pick. Now, it might seem crazy to see two of these heroes here. We got Batrider and Witch Doctor. Batrider is just one of the most mechanically difficult heroes in the game. Knowing when to farm, what items to buy, how to scale, how to execute on the mid to late game is incredibly difficult. The hero has severe mana problems. It's very clunky. The item builds vary very heavily. I wouldn't pick Batrider. Although I think this hero is a decent support, I certainly would not pick it in pubs as a core. It's too damn hard. Then we have Witch Doctor, who I like as a support, but as a core, this used to be one of my favorite cores because you could one-shot creep waves and creep camps with your Q, but you can't do that anymore. They nerfed the hell out of this ability. The W doesn't do damage. I used to cook people. I'd farm up stacks with the W and the Q. I'd max those two abilities, but now you can't do that. If you want to play core Witch Doctor, which, you know, I guess you could just go the Ags route still. It's probably fine. This is still one of the highest winner heroes in Dota, but you can't go like the heal build. At least it doesn't work nearly as well as an offlaner who needs to farm and push in waves. Alright, next up, let's get into the C tier and run through it pretty quickly because these heroes are sort of whatever. I mean, you could pick them if you want, but they're not very meta and not nearly as good as some of the other choices. Alright, coming in at C, we have Wraith King, who's at a flat 50% win rate. This hero has just been nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed. The ulti cooldown's worse, the Char got worse, too many things got worse, the Ags got worse. Like, this hero just got nerfed like crazy, and I don't think it's one of the best aura buyers in the game. Like, it's not a good Shiva's buyer, it's not a good Mage Slayer buyer. So I'm just not a fan of this hero right now. I don't think it's very good. Then we have Mars, who is very popular in the pro scene, but I think for pubs is a terrible choice. The hero's win rate's terrible, but I really believe it's not a good pub hero at all. It's hard to scale. Yeah, there's like meme Amar builds, but for the most part, it's hard to scale. It's hard to farm. The laning is not that good. People will argue like, but Amar makes it look so good. It's Amar, you're not Amar. Okay, don't play this hero. Then we have Brood, a hero that's been shooting up a little popularity. Ace has been playing it a bit, but for the most part, too difficult, just not rewarding enough, too mechanically hard for the payoff. It's not worth playing Brood in the current state of the meta. Then we have Razor, another hero that I think is just way too mechanically difficult. Although I think if you're a specialist, this can be one of the stronger heroes in Dota, it does struggle a little bit against this Shiva's Mage Slayer meta. This hero is very reliant on its spells in the early game to do damage. That is hurt by Mage Slayer. And then Shiva's an armor item kind of hurts this hero in the mid to late game. So not a huge fan of the hero going into like some of these meta items. Then we have Weaver, kind of more of a carry, but I do think the hero is a decent offlaner when going Vessel and Mage Slayer. But I think for the most part, just not worth it. The numbers aren't as good. Ember Spirit's an interesting one that a lot of people have been experimenting with. Mage Slayer is very cool, but the hero's laning is terrible. It's kind of hard to get through the lane into the mid game. If you can get to the mid game clean with max Mage Slayer, it's kind of decent, but you got to get there and you got to play fast. Then we have Bristleback, who one of the Chinese teams just won with, and I thought that was really cool. But for the most part, the numbers got nerfed too hard on the Ags and the Shard, and I wouldn't recommend picking it. Then we have Spirit Breaker, who I didn't even like when he was in the meta. And people are like, you have to pick Spirit Breaker, he goes so fast and can't die. I'm like, yeah, he goes so fast and can't die, but he also isn't killing anyone, and he soaks up like 80% of the space on the map, and I can't hit a damn creep, because my position 4 and offlane Spirit Breaker are just killing everything. Don't pick this hero. Then we have Tiny, interesting offlaner, hard. It's kind of like Mars, it's awkward to farm, just not worth in most games. Brewmaster, too mechanically difficult, got nerfed too hard. Dazzle got nerfed too hard. The Axe Octarine build is still kind of cool, and honestly, I think it's decent, but it's just decent. It's not what it used to be where you could reduce cooldowns of items. Then we have Legion, terrible into the Shiva's meta. I just think that this hero got nerfed too hard and isn't good in the meta. Then we have Marzi offlane, who rushes Ags. I thought this hero was better than the win rate showed, but honestly, it's not a good farming hero. It doesn't push in waves well. It's completely reliant on getting kills, and if you don't get those kills as an offlaner, it feels terrible. You just can't farm. Then we have Lycan here that's been nerfed too many times. Helm of the Dominator is not a good item. While it is a decent buyer of some of the more popular items, I think Vlad's and a Mage Slayer is kind of a cool build on this hero. I don't think people have adapted to that, but I think at the end of the day, you're just better off playing a different hero and buying those broken items. Then we have Phoenix offlane, one of my favorites, but I think it's too mechanically difficult, even though it is a buyer of Shiva's, which I really like, one of the best in the game. I think it's just too difficult to pull off, hard laning stage, and requires a lot of mechanical and conceptual understanding to get off a good ulti, so it just doesn't pay off. Beastmaster is one of the lowest win rate heroes in Dota right now. I think it's just too hard for people. I think a lot of people aren't going the Ags build as well and don't understand how to stack and amp farm with axes, because I actually think if you know how to play this Ags build perfectly, and I have multiple videos on this because it's one of my favorite builds, then you can pull it off, but it's just so much time. And it's like, why in the world would you put all of this time into Beastmaster when you can just lock in Abaddon, who, yes, is definitely one of the better heroes on this list. All right, then getting into the B tier, we're going to start off with Primal Beast. I put at the B tier some of my more favorite heroes at the top, some of the heroes that maybe could leak into the A tier. So starting off with those, we have Primal Beast, one of the best Shiva's buyers and Eternal Shroud buyers in the entire game, can frontline like no other. However, its laning stage can be a bit clunky, and the mechanical scaling of this hero, like the ability to execute on the late game, can make people really struggle, and I do think it's often just hard. I know I say that a lot, but I do believe that, like, if you're looking for a hero to play, a hero to spam, heroes that are good, that is one of the biggest components. If the hero is really hard, like difficult to execute, inconsistent in execution, and at the same time isn't that good, it's just not worth it. Then we have Slaughter, one of the best Mage Slayer buyers in the game. This has really risen in popularity because Mage Slayer Ags covers all of your bases. Armor, magic resist, they're really, really powerful, and it's a lot of mana from the Mage Slayer, but your hero needs. So this build is great, and I'm a big fan of it, and I do think that Slaughter in the early game gets past Mage Slayer. I know this is kind of a theme here, right, this item, but that's how Dota often works. If Mage Slayer is so broken, and you pick too much magic damage, you can't kill anyone in the early game. Slaughter doesn't do any magic damage. Okay, his W, I guess, is a spell, but you get the point. Then we have Arc Warden, just one of my favorite heroes in the game. I think it's an offlaner, it's pretty damn good. It scales well, it's a solid laner, it's good, and you can just play fast by buying items like Vessel, Solar Crest, and other just early game fighting items, even like Mage Slayer. Then we have Magnus. I honestly feel like Magnus as a pub hero is lower, but it's so good in the pro scene that it was hard for me to put in the C tier. Reason why, the execution is hard, it's clunky, it scales in a clunky way, like, everything about Magnus, Magnus, in my opinion, when played by the average person, is the definition of clunky. I hate to break it to you, but you're probably not Whisper, and you probably shouldn't be playing Magnus. But if you are Whisper, you should probably be playing Magnus. All right, then we have Jakiro. I think the Witchblade Mage Slayer build is really strong. Same thing with Hoodwink, who's up next. I think this build is incredibly powerful. Mage Slayer with Acorn Shot into Maelstrom allows you to clear waves like a madman, connect to fights, and have a lot of early game impact. Then we have Furion, a hero I just think is overall good, and is still a good offlaner, it scales well. Then we have Necrophos, one of those heroes where it's like, yeah, this hero tends to be one of the most staple offlaners of the game, and still is a counterpick to a lot of the meta carries, but at the end of the day, its numbers got nerfed a bit too hard for it to be in the meta. Talking about numbers getting nerfed very hard, we have Kunkka, same thing here. Very strong hero because of the fact that it's easy to execute the late game. You just click the water park and X someone, but the numbers got nerfed a bit too hard. Night Stalker up next. I'm not a fan of Night Stalker. I personally hate playing the hero due to its lack of wave shove, but I will admit it's really good at being oppressive to certain archetypes of heroes. For instance, when you're playing Night Stalker against Puck, the double silence when you use the ulti to refresh your cooldown is really hard for Puck to play into and is a great response pick. So I think this hero as a response hero, maybe a last pick in pubs, is very good. Then we have Ogre Magi, one of my favorite heroes. Midas into the useful items, Shivas, and so on. Generally, Midas into Shivas is a great build, and this hero is a great laner, easy to play. Then we have Pudge. Pudge as an offlaner is actually very good. Shivas into Ags or Shivas into Eternal Shroud makes you one of the best frontliners in the game. I will say that into some of the carries, the laning stage can be very hard due to your bad armor and movement speed, but generally you're a pretty damn good hero. Then we have Winter Wyvern, one of the worst laners in the game. Well, he's okay. Now that they buffed the Q and the E so hard, it's alright. But what I really like about this hero is just the scaling. The scaling of Wyvern with Witchblade into Revenant's Brooch, or Witchblade into Parasma, or Bloodthorn, or just the Ags, right? The classic build is incredible. This hero's late game damage is nutty. Then we have Enigma, one of the best buyers of Vlads and Drums, and it's just a natural scaler into the game. I also think the fact that you can summon Eidolons anywhere is extremely useful, and they've buffed this ability a lot. Then we have Underlord, nothing too crazy here, but I do think he's B tier, a classic good pub hero, easy to execute, good laning stage, and buys the useful items. You can't really go wrong with Underlord, he's just always going to be there. Then we have Nyx Assassin. I made a video on this one, it's fun, it's cool, it does a lot of damage, it scales well, and it's easy to execute on. I'm a big fan of Nyx offlane. Then we have Venno, just a solid hero, but nothing special. I think it's a decent response pick to Faceless Void, so if you're looking to give this hero a go, I think Vessel Shivas against Void as Venno is very hard for the guy to play into. Then we have Visage, a hero that buys Vlads and just can scale. It's also pretty good against the Mage Slayer meta, which I actually noticed to be very strong. For instance, I played this hero against Ember and I'm like, wow, it's really nice that I'm Visage right now because of the fact that I can actually kill this guy. Yes, Soul Assumption wasn't doing any damage, but my birds and my hero were, and it made the Ember very uncomfortable. Usually he would just run over your team, I could push him away. Then we have Wind Ranger, one of my favorite offlaners. It's a very, very good laner and scales incredibly well, but the early and mid game, if you fight and you get caught by natural team fight spells, you will just die. So it's a very, very fine line hero. I think it's good, but you gotta know what to do. Then we have Omni Knight. I don't know, honestly, this hero is like really weird. The main build I've seen is Blink into Conda, because essentially your spells, like your E crits, right? And it does a ton of damage with Phylactery. And then the reason why you buy Blink is so you can close the gap with the Q and the E. And I don't know, I've seen this hero look really good, but I've also seen it where it can't push in waves that well. It doesn't farm that well. So if it falls behind kind of like a Night Stalker, it just doesn't look good. All right, now let's get into the A tier. Some of the best heroes in Dota. Some of the heroes that I really like playing as well, because I think they're strong. Generally like playing what's strong. But okay, let's get into the A tier, starting at the bottom, but not necessarily the worst. I don't have these mostly in order. I will say if I think one of them is better than the other, but for the most part, the rest of these heroes are kind of not in order because Dota's a situational game. I'll tell you though if I think one hero is a bit better than the other. All right, starting off at the bottom of A tier, we have Sand King. This hero's pub win rate is one of the highest. This is one of the highest winner heroes in Dota. And you know what? I've been looking at Sand King and more I'm like, this hero kind of makes sense. It's a universal hero, so spamming stats gives you damage in the laning stage. Its base stats aren't that bad. Its spells at level 1 are bad, but honestly, with how Dota has developed, using a Sentry Ward in the lane to stop Sandstorm Sand King is really clunky. It's really clunky because then you don't have it to block the large camp or unblock your small camp. And then the scaling of just Shiva's Axe is insane. It's something I even learned recently because I've paid so little attention to this hero, but anyone you stun with Burrow Strike gets Caustic Finale applied. Not creeps, but heroes. This is really powerful because Caustic Finale, I mean, that effect where when you stun someone it applies your E used to be tied to the Axe because of how strong that is. I don't even remember when they added this, which is kind of embarrassing, but it's nasty. That is nasty. If you had a 3-man stun and one of those heroes die, it's gonna probably kill the next hero, and that's probably gonna kill the next hero. And it's this chain effect. And then yeah, the Ags and the Shivas is nasty. Then we have Darkseer, one of my favorite heroes, and people, every time I talk about Darkseer, they're like, stop forcing this hero. This hero is terrible. It requires too much synergy. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You just don't know how to play the hero. This hero is great. Great base stats. I think it's a good laner. It scales well, it farms like a madman, and it buys the useful items. There's nothing not good against Darkseer. It's hard, okay? I'll give you that. It's hard. However, the biggest technique I can recommend is learn how to use your ulti to solo kill people, because your ulti spawns an illusion and it slows them. If you ulti someone and then you shell the illusion and you track them with that illusion, you don't need a teammate. And you might be like, oh, so you have to rely on no teammate, bad teammate. It's like, no, you can just solo kill people even with no backup, which is extremely useful. Even if I have a Clockwork on my team, I'm probably gonna still use this technique. It's so useful and I get so many kills early on and it snowballs my game. And then I farm like crazy. I buy my Shivas, I buy my Blink, I buy my Eternal Shroud, my Axe, or my Guardian Greaves, and I play fast. My personal build is Mech into Shivas. I buy Mech because I think it's way better than Veil for early fighting. It's not even close in my opinion. Then I go back for the Veil, because I think Veil and into Shivas is a bit better in the mid game. All right, then we have Centaur, just the staple hero of the patch. Shivas, Eternal Shroud, you click your W, bada bing, bada boom. Then we have Dawnbreaker, a hero that, in my opinion, has really elevated in the meta because of its ability to buy the most useful items. It's a great Vlad's buyer. It's a great Mage Slayer buyer because it needs the mana and it likes the sustain from the Q. You might be like, oh, but it has sustain on the E. Yeah, but in the early game, the E, you actually don't want to max it. You want to max Q so you can use it more frequently. It lowers the cooldown from 17 to 11. And then you buy Axe, and this Axe is like 1,000 healing in an AoE with 60% evasion. And you take the talents that buff up this Axe, right, that lower the cooldown and increase the radius. And this hero, it's just good laner that farms, scales well because of the Axe, and then you just buy utility in the late game. Like I like buying, I'll just pick up a Shivas, I'll just pick up a Hex, you know? Then boom, I'm just a utility bot, but I'm a really useful utility bot. Then we have Axe, a hero I don't think is very good in the pro scene due to its early game fighting, but in terms of scaling and ability to punish people who are pushing towers stupidly, Axe is one of the best in the game. It's also a hero that has received buff after buff, and I do actually think it's very good in pubs, and so yeah, if you're a pub player, I would give it a go. Just an initiator that buys Blade Mail and kills people when they overextend, which they will overextend. People overextend. Okay, then we have Venge. I know, Venge in the 8th tier for offlane. Really? Yeah, I think for pub heroes, this is easily one of the best offlaners. Why? Easy. Easy. You click the wave of terror. They can't do damage. You stun. They can't move. You ulti. You save your teammate. Or you put someone out of position. When you hit level 10, you give like a 300 barrier. When you're level 12, it's like a 500 barrier with your talent to you and your teammate, where you do that much damage to your enemy. This hero is nuts. All you do is you go treads with a Wraithband and a wand into Ags, maybe raindrops and a clarity, and then boom, you're set. In terms of scaling, you can buy Vlad's, broken item, you can buy Mage Slayer, great item, you can go Manta, push in waves, it's good. I'm telling you, this hero is good, and its damage in the lane is so good for last hitting. It's like a 68 damage range hero. It's so easy to contest CS. Then we have Lone Druid, a hero that got nerfed really hard, but still, in my opinion, one of the best heroes in the game. You'd think it's weak to Shivas, and honestly, it is a little annoying, I will admit. I think Shivas is good against this hero, and that's the reason it's not S tier in my opinion. But yeah, it's just still one of the best laners in the game, can play very fast and scales well. I don't think it's that hard of a hero either, even though yes, it's technically micro, you're generally just hitting the same thing at the same time. It's not that hard. Then we have Meepo. I always gotta put Meepo on the list. This hero is crazy. It's crazy. You scale and you take the Ancients, and then you hit level 11 at like minute 11 with an Axe. Maybe minute 12, right? Maybe I'm pushing it a bit. Insane hero. Insane hero. The farming speed, insane. Faceless Void. You know that hero everyone hates? Too good? Meepo, one of my favorite responses. The lane is so easy. With your E, you can take your E at level 1, and then if you buy a Wraithband, not level 1, but like you buy components and then buy the Wraithband, like Void can't trade with you, even one Meepo. He can't trade. And you don't cast spells if you have E, so he can't time dilate you. Even at level 2, you just don't have to cast anything. And then when you hit level 4 and you have 2 Meepos, Void cannot lane. He can't lane. You deny every creep, you can easily bully him out. It's like a terrible matchup. And then when you have 2 nets, you actually are a kill threat to him, right? So this matchup is terrible. Yes, you can get Chrono and you can Mega Meepo, but like you can also initiate and instantly Mega Meepo. And that's what I do when I'm against Void. So I bully this guy in the lane and then he can't go on me in the mid game. Like I kill his friend and then Mega Meepo, and he doesn't feel comfortable. All right, Tidehunter, Mage Slayer Vlad's. This guy can bless up to those items being broken because he's like arguably the best hero in the game at buying them, and you just buy Shivas with your shard and you get in the way. It's very good. Shard's incredibly good. It's just a good hero, man. Like really stable hero. All right, getting to S tier. First off, we got Timbersaw. Yes, I will admit, not easy to play. Mechanically difficult. Clicking the buttons is hard. Maintaining the mana pool is hard, but if you get these things down and you know when to buy Eternal Shroud and when to buy Shivas, right? When to buy what? When to buy Blink. Blink has shot up in popularity. It's funny, you guys can say what you want. Blink has been something I've been buying on Timber for a long time now. The reason why it's good is using Chain to hit your spells is giga inconsistent. And if you buy Blink, your Q, you can instantly blink next to someone who's on trees and Q them. And when your Q is next to trees, it does a bajillion damage. It's so clean. And this has shot into popularity. And this build is nuts. Like this Shiva's Blink, you just insta-kill people. Insta-kill people. And then with Eternal Shroud, you can't die. Like this hero can't die. It buys some of the best items. Its biggest weakness is Mage Slayer, which is why some people have started to go towards BKB. Instead of going Eternal Shroud, they'll buy a BKB. Literally just to deal with Mage Slayer. It is unfortunate that is like the only reason this hero isn't like completely unbeatable. Like really. But yeah, they buffed the E2 hard. Then we have Death Prophet. Staple hero of the meta. It's been good since the start of the patch. Buy Shivas, scales well. It's basically one of those heroes that's just going to win you all the early fights and get your team off to a good start, mentally and in terms of gold. Right? So it's a good hero, a good laner. I think it's pretty good into the meta right now. Yes, it does struggle against Mage Slayer. Once again, it is a hero that doesn't like Mage Slayer, but that's a lot of heroes. So, you know, you can go BKB, right? Shivas into BKB is an option if you're struggling against Mage Slayer, but for the most part, the goal of this hero is to buy Eternal Shroud and Shivas and get in the way, and then no one can deal with you. And it's just too damn good, right? This hero needed armor, and it likes Spell Amp, and what better item than Shivas? It just fits DP too well. It's kind of like how it fits Timber, just too well. Then we have Viper, my favorite Mage Slayer buyer. This hero with Mage Slayer Dragonlance is untouchable. With the E, you have like 60%, almost 70% magic resist. You cannot die. You also can't die to physical damage because your W slows attack speed, so does your ult, so does your E. So you can't die to physical, you can't die to magical. No one does any magic damage because you have a Mage Slayer. And then you scale well. You can scale in a plethora of ways. You can scale by buying Shivas and getting in the way, or you can scale by buying Parasma and lowering their magic resistance with your Q, your Q10 talent, a Grove Bow, Parasma, and Shivas. If you click all of these on someone, you can literally melt people It's goofy stuff. Oh, and then your 20 talent. Then we have Abaddon, one of the highest spinner heroes in all of Dota right now. Just got buffed very hard, right? The E. Now that it does damage, makes farming and pushing out waves much easier. The Manta is incredibly good because Manta pushes out waves by itself. So you now have an incredible split pushing and farming tool that you just didn't have in the past. And yeah, the damage this hero does is nuts. Also, in terms of pushing, is good, right? You know what people do in pubs? You know how they just like run at the closest tower no matter what? You know who's really good at doing that? Abaddon! Oh, yep. It's perfect! It fits the playstyle. You guys don't even have to use your brain. You can win pubs without thinking. Now, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm kind of not. Like when your team groups up, which they will, Abaddon helps make that work. Also, you can just kind of go like a Vlad's heal build. I don't think it's that bad. Like a Vlad's Mage Slayer into Shiva's. That is an option with max W. And then eventually, I still think with that build you max E. But you can like do this like utility build. I think there's a lot of value in like a Shiva's Holy Locket Ags type line as well. Because the key is just it's a good heal. Like just a lot of HP. It's like a 5-second cooldown or 5.5. It's insane. Then we have Doom, a hero I don't like playing, even though I used to play like only Doom back in the day. But that was when it was just like a split push Octarine farm bot. It was really fun. Now it's like a team fight hero. It's like boring. You just click ult and then you click Shiva's and they can't get away and then they die. It's like boring. You know what I mean? Come on. This hero's being good in the way that it's good is not fun. It's not fun. It just runs into Shiva's, slows everyone, and then clicks ult and they can't heal. It's like, fine, it's good. I will admit, I didn't like this hero in the past. I didn't think it was that good, but the laning stage, pretty solid. This hero just is very tanky, has pretty good base armor at 4. You click your W. They buffed Infernal Blade, so it's a 13-second cooldown level 1 instead of 16, which people skill level 2 or sometimes a level 4. And that lets them trade and get through the lane because of that buff. It's like, yes, this hero kind of needed armor, and the Shiva's helps with that. It's like, and there's a lot of healing in Dota right now, so yeah, Doom is good. Okay, fine. And then the biggest meta shoot-up of all time is Mage Slayer DK. But this hero is insane. I was gonna make a video on it. Might still do that. Just kind of teach you guys all the tips and tricks. I know people understand the build if you've just been watching Pro Dota. It's pretty simple, but I think I'm gonna make a video on like the 5 things that will shoot your DK to the next level because I know a lot of the small things on this hero that are very important. What makes this hero arguably the best offlaner in Dota right now? Number 1, Mage Slayer fits this hero well. You need mana, you want attack speed, and then you need magic resist, right? Because you have armor from your E. So you get everything from Mage Slayer. It's the perfect item, literally the perfect item. I think you could argue this is the best Mage Slayer hero in the game because of how it fits the kit. It's just everything you need. Like arguably it's not as good on Viper because Viper already has magic resist. DK doesn't. Right, so you have that. Then you buy Blink if you want to just be an initiator, or if you want to scale, so you can do either, which is great for pubs. You can determine like, does my team have too much initiation? Should I scale? Okay, I go Manta. Does my team have way too many damage heroes and backliners? Okay, I'll go Blink and I'll enable. Why Manta? When you hit level 12, the Mantas have corrosion and AoE damage, so you can push in waves, farm like a madman. When you hit level 18 and you eventually get Ags, you can't move. You cannot move. You can't move. You get hit by one of these damn black dragons. And you can't move. It's literally 100 movement speed simulator. Like you get skimmed. You don't even have to get hit. Just AoE skim. The Dragonite grazes my nutsack, and I can't move. It's like it makes no sense. And then it's like old Naga with Dragon Scale, where if you guys don't remember, Naga used to be able to use Dragon Scale on illusions, and she could just infinitely take your buildings with 0 committal. And that's what DK is in the late game now. You just put these dragons on the tower and they corrode the tower with 0 committal and they can fly over the wall and they're also not that easy to kill unless you have a line. DK's pretty good. It's also a good laner. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button. If you want to leave a hate comment, feel free. I know a lot of you guys hate my opinions, so I always love to hear that in the comments. It brightens my day when people say, Speed, you're stupid. Speed, your opinions make no sense. Speed, you should stop making videos. I always love to see that. It brightens my day. So yeah, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.